Today we're going to work on some splashing wave techniques, and my plan is to work on a rough paper. Let me show you the paper I'm using. It's a Aquarelle Arches watercolor block, and it's rough, 100% cotton, 12 by 16. So I'm using this paper because I want to try the scraping off with a knife technique for some of the waves, the splashing waves. I'm also going to tape the edges of my paper. I like to have a white border when I paint or after I finish painting so that it looks nice and clean. And using, let's see, I have a roll of tape that's a little bit old, so hopefully it'll be okay if I can find the end of it. I'll get the new tape, or well, I'll use this tape. This is artist tape. It doesn't always stick quite as well as the Scotch Magic tape, but it's supposed to be more archival or whatever. It doesn't have some of the same properties. So I'm taping the edge of my paper. That way, when I'm finished, I can take the tape off and I'll have the look of a matted piece. This is just a 1/4 inch. It's not going to be a wide border. I think I've got a shadows here, so I'm going to put the curtain behind me. See if this helps. Oops, oh dear. Should have left well enough alone, I guess. Guess I'm going to have a shadow no matter what. Feels like the edge of this block is coming loose, so I might have to tape that side. Otherwise, it'll buckle on that one side. Put a little more tape on it. I'll show you the materials I plan to work with here. I have a couple of brushes that I'm sure I'll use. I have a number 24 round, a number 30 flat, a number 6 velvet touch, Oh, and now I have a number 8 also, a new one that I got from Cheryl. So those are probably the main ones I'll use. I also have a white pastel pencil. Well, I guess this is the one. And that's a Prismacolor. This is the pastel. And I have some liquid Frisket in a little bottle. And I have a couple of knives. An X-Acto knife and one of these utility knives. And of course, salt in a film canister. And then I have gouache, white gouache. And I have a white candle. So I think I have pretty much what I need to do this. And if not, I'll get something else. So to start with, I don't think I'll even draw anything. I think I'm just going to paint. I think it's a little bit more fun that way. So I'm looking at the reference photo and I see a lot of splashing waves and I see some beach. And so I think I'll start by, maybe I will spatter some liquid Frisket. Let me get a little bit of that. Now, if you use liquid Frisket that's in a bottle like this, you need to make sure that you use a brush that you're going to be able to clean and not have a problem later. You want to use an old brush or a brush that's a synthetic. I have an old brush here that's a synthetic. And I'm also going to put it in some soap before I put it in the Frisket. So I've got a little bar of soap here, an old bar of soap. And the first thing I do is I wet my brush and get some soap on it. You can even use some dish soap or something. Get it all soaped up. Dip it in the Frisket. And then spatter. And this is pretty liquidy, what I have. It's fairly new Frisket. It's not been opened much before. It's not colored, so it's a little hard to even see where it is, but that's part of the fun of this, is the surprise when you rub it off. Okay, so now I think I have plenty of that. I'm going to even, I guess I'll paint a little bit of more of an opaque up in here too, where I see a little bit more solid white, just in a few places. And then down along the beach here where there's the waves are, the foam is coming in. I'll paint a little bit of that here too, just to give an edge to the water. Now put the lid on the Frisket. Don't forget to do that and put it in a safe place. And then go back to your soap. rub the brush in the soap again. I should have had some water that was just devoted to the brisket, but I didn't, so. And clean your brush. This is really important. Clean all the frisket off your brush. I have paper towel here. I've got two different pieces of paper towel, one for getting moisture off my brush, and then one for rubbing later when we do the rubbing out process. Okay, so now I have to wait a little bit for this frisket to dry before I can paint. And I do not have a beer or a glass of wine, so I'll just have to maybe start thinking about what colors I'm going to use here. So here's my palette. And I have it pretty much set up with the names of the colors in marker on the side. I'll probably use, I have some Prussian blue, I think it's up in here. And then I have some cobalt, French ultramarine, I have some manganese. I don't have any cerulean squeezed out, but I have viridian, so I'll use some of that. And then I've got yellow ochre. I have some cat orange down here, and I have some reds up here, alizarin crimson and rose madder genuine and so forth. So I'll probably do a mixture of that. And let's see, how can I speed this up? Maybe if I just use my hair dryer with air and not any heat. See how that goes. Let's see, my monitor went off. Let's see if I can get it back on. Oh, my external monitor went off when I did that. Let me check it here.
I think we can still see it.
Yeah, I can't see my reference photo though.
Oh, that.
Yeah, see, when I did when I plugged the hair dryer in, my external monitor disconnected. But I guess while this is drying, it doesn't matter. There, I got it back. Okay, So the way to know whether it's dry or not is to look and see if your brisket is still shiny. And mine is in the places where it's kind of thick. You can sort of see the yellow there of it, and you can see the shininess. So I'm going to take my paper towel, just lightly dab on here to pick up a bit of it. Now I think I can go ahead and paint. So I'm looking at the color, I'm analyzing the values and the color. And what I think I'll start with is using my flat brush, my big flat brush. I'm going to start with the darker blue at the top. So I'll use a little bit of French ultramarine. And it's looking way green on my monitor. That's what it does here. And then I'm going to add some Viridian. And I'm kind of skipping with my brush a little bit of that, you know, skipping and leaving some of the dry paper. While it's still wet, I'm adding more. So I'm dragging with the side of my brush. That's important because you want to leave some of the white of the paper. Making a bigger puddle of my color. Coming back in and dropping some more in here.
Sylvia, did you pre-wet at the very top?
No. No, just drawn dry. Because I wanted to make sure I can get that dry brush effect. And now I'm going to come back in with my round brush. And I'm going to get some Prussian blue, which is a darker blue. And I'm looking at the places where I see a darker tone on the water here and coming in with some of that. Now moving down, I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt blue. And I've got it very watered down. Still dragging with the side of my brush. And while it's still wet, I'm coming in with a little bit of a darker blue-green. It's a combination of the French ultramarine and the Viridian. And dropping it in a couple places here. Oh, and while it's still wet, I want to sprinkle some salt up here. I've got the margarita salt here. And I'm going to put both kinds, the table salt and the margarita salt. In the areas where I want the splash. And now I see a little bit of a rosy kind of a violet. So I'm adding a little bit of opera. Let's see. I think I'll add the opera to the cobalt. It's still blue, but it's a little bit more toward the violet. Okay, I want to get some more darks in here because remember, as it dries, you want to keep adding some dark. So I'm mixing my Prussian blue, or no, my French ultramarine and my Viridian, a little bit more of that. I'm bringing more into this part of the wave that's darker. Need to make it a little bit darker, so mixing up more French ultramarine and Viridian. Now I'm looking for some shapes here, shapes of places where I think, oh, okay, I want to give it a little bit more contrast. I forgot to do the crayon thing. I've got to do a little of that. Or the candle. Okay, so I'm going to, while I'm waiting for some of that to dry, I'm going to come in here and do some of this marking with the candle in places where I see some lines or waves or things of foam on the surface. And there's this secondary line here for this other wave. I'm putting it in here too. And then I'll rub a little bit here. Coming back in with more salt. Okay, now, I might try something a little different too that I haven't done before. I think I might, while it's still damp, spatter a little gouache on and see if I get some softer effects of gouache. So I have a big tube of Winsor Newton Designers gouache. I'm going to put some on a big round brush. Oops. Straight from the tube. Oh, it needs more on it. I guess I might have to put a little bit on my palette. But it's very runny because it's a pretty fresh tube. Okay. Hope I didn't spatter on the lens like that one time when I didn't know what was wrong with my camera. Okay, now because I don't really know exactly where that is, I'm going to blot up the place where I plan to paint so that I don't end up with a milky white in that area. Now I'm going to start to paint the some of this foreground area, and I'm looking more at the lighter values than I am the actual color. gonna add a little Veridian because I think there's a little more green over on this one side. Running out of palette space, so I have to get another. Using the side of my brush. I think I have frisket on my fingers. It feels like it. Now I'm going to be brave and start putting some sand in. I'm going to start with yellow ochre. This is pretty bright, but I'm going to tone it down. I'll put a little bit of, I think this is probably raw umber. Or burnt umber. Not real sure. And then I'm going to add some violet in here too. Right on the edge of the water. And burnt sienna. It's not looking right. It's contaminated. My burnt sienna is contaminated. It's not as bright as you're seeing it, believe me. Much less bright. Now I'll sprinkle a little salt on here too. Now it's time for negative space painting. So getting my brushes that I would use for that. My number 8. Then I'm going to start coming in and painting some of these shapes I see down in here. think of this as a rhythm, you know, when you do your negative space painting, think about it as like, you know, it's got movement and pattern. And then I'm doing some of the edge of this wave right here when I have it on my brush. While I'm at it, I can see places in here where I want to add some more darks. I'm looking for shapes is what I'm doing right now. In places where I need more contrast. So quiet. Is everybody still here? Somebody say something.
Still here.
Still
Enjoying.
here.
We are in awe.
Okay, good.
I'm here too, and not to digress, but I sent you an email about the use of the hair dryer. I found a video that I thought was interesting.
Oh, okay. I know
If
you're
I
not
keep-
supposed to do it with Frisca.
Well, I don't know. No, I've been questioning that in my own mind, so
Uh-huh.
I
Well,
thought
I
I'd read.
Very briefly, I thought, well, I'll just see. I'll push it. I'll see how far I can go.
Yeah, I just wondered if it was an urban myth. I know some people just believe it, but I question everything.
That's not bad.
And it turns out, according to this video, it can influence the behavior of colors, but it doesn't necessarily, damage the pigments. So,
Okay.
but in terms of, the effects that you're getting with it, the fluidity or just not giving it enough time to spread,
Right.
it can affect that. Also, whether you're being aggressive with it or holding it far enough away from your sheet. is
Okay,
important.
yeah. Okay, have to remember to be consistent here. I was doing negative space. And then I kind of digressed, but I have to carry it through because there's this whole pattern along here. I want to get to the point where I can take the frisket off, which is, and so that we can see what we have and then work with that. So hopefully it'll all be dry enough for me to do that soon. Let's see here. Okay. While I'm waiting for that, oh, I see places I can actually lift a little bit up in here, maybe. Let me try that. I think I got a little bit too dark in some of these areas. Or maybe just darkening some around it would do the trick. Let me try that.
That's looking really nice, Sylvia.
Oh, good. I wasn't sure how it's looking to you guys because I know the color isn't exactly right.
No, but it's beautiful. And I love that sand in the corner. It looks really pretty.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. You have a lot of texture, which is really cool.
I love texture, you know that. And the rough paper does give you a little bit more of the ability to work with that.
Is that 300 pound?
No, it's 140, but it's on a block.
Oh,
I'll spatter some of this darker in this area. Okay, and I can't really use the hair dryer to get it dry, so. Does anybody want to show me something while I'm waiting? What I need is duct tape. I've got some duct tape. Have you ever heard that duct tape will remove warts?
No, I've never heard that.
Yeah, that's what they say. Oh, it does work. Hey, it works, Tim.
Yay.
The thing is, I painted it kind of thinly, but it is actually working. I love working with creative people. That's pretty amazing. Okay, now I can even rub with the duct tape. Probably need a new piece though. Okay, that's working. Getting another piece and seeing if I can. Well, some of the rest of it isn't dry enough. I wanted to just work on this edge. There's still a little bit that isn't coming off right here. Okay. So I can come back in now and work on this one little section, which is right in this area. I want to make that look like it's got some depth and dimension. So I see a kind of a gray, blue-gray tone here. And so I'm going to mix up. I've got some already mixed up. It's a little bit of a violet in there. And I'm going to come along here now, paint that edge, but I'm leaving a little bit of reflected light too. See if I can get down a little closer.
Did you mix that violet or is it a
Yeah,
dioxazine?
it was on my palette from the opera and the cobalt. I already mixed it, so. And I'm seeing places where it's darker and it's also wider and softer. So I need to manipulate the edge here. While it's still damp, look to see what places where it looks like it's a little darker. And drop color into, drop a little darker tone into those little crevices. And up in here, there's a little bit more of that blue-green negative space painting thing going on in here. It's a little too dark.
Oh, that sand, where the sand meets the water, is fabulous.
It needs that darkness, doesn't it? And it needs to have a little bit of even darker there. If you really look at it, you see how dark that, it has a shadow, doesn't it? It's really pretty intense. So I'm mixing up sort of a violet. Then I'm going to come back in and even make it a little darker in here.
Yeah, it's going to diffuse and lighten. So it looks bold at the moment, but
Yeah.
looks great though.
It's so much fun to do these kind of little touches, you know, where it starts to come together.
And that's kind of my default for wet sand, is put some violet in it.
Yeah.
It plays off against the dry sand, which is the complement, you know.
Uh-huh. Okay, I don't think I can do much more right at this point. What I need to do though is in this area here, come back in with a little bit of a tone, but not a real dark tone, just slight, so that it kind of goes with the shape of the wave, you know, like. Using the side of my brush again. It's a little darker tone than what I had before. Dragging it sideways. Picking up the tops of the texture of the paper.
I love how you did that shadow on that wave coming in, you know, that where the masking fluid was, Sylvia. That
Oh,
came out,
right here.
yes, that came out amazing.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Mhm.
Now I need to get darker on this little, the edge of this little wave here too in places. And then the dry brush dragging technique, again, over in here. Well, I haven't gotten a chance to do the Kleenex or the paper towel rubbing thing yet because I'm too afraid to take off this frisket. Let me see if I use the duct tape, if it'll pull anything off.